If you trade spot gold, CFDs, or Forex pairs, you're probably trading with the blindfolds on. Why is that? Because your broker's volume data is pretty much meaningless. Most of these markets don't run through a centralized exchange. That means the volume that you see on your chart isn't the real story. It's just your particular broker's sample of activity. But here's the thing. There is a centralized exchange that does set the tone for these markets. And that's where the real volume lives. Professional Forex and CFD traders don't stare at the spot chart. They anchor their decisions to futures volume data from the CME, the largest centralized exchange in the entire world for gold, currencies, and stock indexes. And why do they do this? Because it gives them the highest level of market context, such as where fair value is being accepted, where price is balanced and likely to rotate or range, and when price is imbalanced and likely to trend. And the beauty is these clues work on any time frame. Now, while I firmly believe that futures products are the better asset to trade due to their centralized exchange, extremely tight spreads, and the highest level of liquidity, I also realize that many traders around the world do not have access to US futures markets, or at the very least, a decent futures broker with proper leverage. And I understand that, so this video is for you, the ones that need to trade with a Forex or a CFD broker. I'm looking to help you find success with trading these products, and at the same time using the professional data and real market structure that the pro traders are using. Without centralized volume, you're pretty much guessing. You can't see where the big players are doing business. It's very hard to distinguish a real breakout from a fake one or a trap. And you don't really know when you should be fading the extremes or looking to ride momentum and the direction of the trend. With futures volume data, you can map the market like an auction. Identify where value is, spot imbalances early, and trade in sync with the real drivers of price action. I've been day trading for well over a decade, and I teach traders in my community how to use the VWAP, volume profile, and initial balance to read the auction in real time. And I can tell you from vast experience that when you start using futures data to guide your gold, Forex, and CFD trading, you'll never look at the naked chart in the same way again. In this video, I'm going to go over the following topics. Number one, how to access futures volume data in your particular market, how to set up the comparable futures contract with the Forex or CFD product you're trading, and lastly, how to spot the highest probability setups in any market by anchoring to the futures exchange data. So let's dive into the charts. So this is a side-by-side comparison. The top is the GC US futures gold contract, and the bottom is spot gold, XAUUSD. As you can see, they're trading almost identically. The candle patterns are very, very similar. You might see some more volatility in the spot gold, and that's because the futures contract actually has a lot more liquidity, so it's a lot more stable. The spreads are tighter, so it tends not to be as erratic as you might have experienced with gold with your broker. Okay, so due to the lack of a centralized exchange in spot gold, Forex, CFDs, the volume data is not that reliable. You don't have the big players and hedge funds and institutions giving you their volume data on your particular broker. That happens on a centralized exchange like what we have in the US futures markets. Now, I realize not everybody can trade futures or they don't have access or a decent broker. So many trade CFDs or Forex pairs to be able to trade these instruments, and I get that. All right, so this video is going to be for you and how to use futures data to be able to trade effectively with reliable volume information from the big banks, the institutions, and the hedge funds, all right, which is all centralized on the CME exchange. All right, the CME Gold Exchange is actually one of the largest in the world. It is the largest in the world. There are currency pairs like the pound and the euro. And there are also going to be your indexes like the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Dow, or the US30. They're all available on futures contracts. Now, futures data is not free, right? It's when you pull this up in TradingView, you're actually going to have a 10-minute delay. So you have to pay for futures data. The good news is it's only $7 a month. It's very inexpensive, and it's absolutely worth the investment. So to sign up on TradingView for futures data, you're going to go to your settings, you're going to go to your profile, right? You're going to go to settings and billing. Right here, you're going to go down to subscriptions. And at the bottom, you see I'm signed up for CME Group. And I'm also signed up for CBOE Global Indexes. That's to get the VIX. You're not going to need that. But to sign up, you're going to go to Explore Now. And that's going to bring you to this market data screen. Okay, let me make sure you can see all this. Okay, the one that you're going to want is the CME group, E-mini included. All right, that's going to be this one right here. As you can see, on the free section, it's delayed data by 10 minutes. But with real-time data, all right, it's going to be $7. $7 a month, not that bad, right? Then you're going to click on this, sign up for that. All right, quite easy. Once you have your live futures data activated, all right, now you'll be able to compare your charts in real time without the 10-minute delay on futures. And there's going to be various instruments that you're going to be able to trade. All right, so the one for spot gold is going to be the GC contract. Right? If you're going to trade the euro, you're going to go to 6E futures. All right, so down here, that's going to be the euro. Right, you can see very similar chart, almost identical on the 15-minute. If you're trading the pound, right, actually, let's go to the futures market first. That's going to be 6B. And in Forex, obviously, that's going to be the pound. Right, again, very similar chart, almost identical. All right, now these trade in a correlated fashion, so you're going to get tip-offs in futures that are going to allow you to trade this more effectively and also not be faked out as easily. All right, you'll be able to catch the real moves on the pair as opposed to getting stuck. Okay. You have, now they don't always trade correlated, but you're going to get volume data that's going to give you the insight necessary to be effectively trade real setups. If you want to trade the NASDAQ, that's going to be NQ. And down here, it's going to be the NAS100. Right? Again, almost an identical chart. And if you want to trade the US30, that's going to be YM in futures. Right? Again, almost identical chart. Right? Now there's, depending on what contract you want to trade, you know, there's a lot more pairs that you can look up, but this is the process, how I just showed you. Now, when you want to add the proper volume data indicators, all right, you're going to go to indicators. The first one we're going to want to add is the volume weighted average price. All right, that's going to be that one. All right, this is the VWAP. This starts at the beginning of 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. And this shows you the average price based on real volume. So this takes into account the average price that a majority of the volume has transacted at. So, and since a majority of the volume is institutions, banks, and hedge funds, this gives you a very keen idea of whether we're bullish, bearish, or whether we're in a trading range that should be faded. All right, I'll go into this here shortly. The next indicator is you're going to want to watch the session volume profile. Okay, this is going to give you price volume per level. So at which price levels were the most popular? All right, you can tell this by the peaks. All right, that's where the most volume is transacted, and then you get these valleys, all right, these low volume nodes that are unpopular price levels, and these tend to act as support and resistance. And lastly, the big indicator we want to use is going to be the initial balance. And I have my own initial balance indicator. That's going to be initial balance wave map by Trader Drysdale. Okay, let's reset this. All right, this gives you the high and low of the first hour of trading. And this will give you other setups to be able to trade with. I'm going to get rid of that one for now. I have separate videos, guys, on how to trade all of these indicators. This video is not about how to trade with these indicators. It's about how to set it up, how to use it, and then I want you guys to go on to the other videos to learn how to trade it. All right, we're going to do it real quick, down and dirty on this video, but this is not the best video for the trading setup. So I want you guys to go into that next. Okay, so we're going to use these indicators on the futures contract with the real centralized data to procure real setups on my Forex or CFD chart with your proper broker. Okay, now real quick on how to trade these setups. When we're trading above the bands, all right, these are deviation bands. These are one standard deviation bands. All right, when we're above the bands, this is price discovery, and we trade in the direction of the break. Same here. All right, this is momentum. We're outside the band. We're going to short here, and we're going to long here. All right, this is setup number one of the VWAP wave system, price discovery continuation. All right, now there is entry criteria, there's profit targets, stop losses, all that information. Again, not going to be in this video. All right, let's go over to, let's give you another chart to compare to. Let's go back to gold. And let's go back to XAU, spot. Okay. Let's reset that. Let's reset that. Let's go back a little bit. I want you guys to see how comparable these are. All right. Again, price discovery continuation. We look for the break of the band, short, break of the band, short. All right. These are the exact setups you're going to look for in your gold spot chart. All right. When we're trading in the bands like we are here, this is called a balanced market. And this is where we fade the value area extremes. All right. This is when we're clearly showing acceptance between the bands. All right, and you're going to long when we're in the bands and short above the bands. Look at these great setups. All right, beautiful setups. Fade value area extremes. That's setup number 2 out of the VWAP wave system. Okay, setup number 3 is going to be the return to value. That's after price discovery move, we return to value. We can expect to move back to VWAP and the other side of value. Right, that's setup number 3 in the VWAP wave system. And lastly, setup number 4 is the VWAP bounce. That's when we're in price discovery. Mid-trend, we come back to VWAP and we look for the next leg down. All right? Price discovery, down to VWAP, next leg up. Price discovery to the downside, mid-trend, up to VWAP, next trend down. All right? Happens all the time. VWAP bounce. So these are the 4 core setups that we get in the VWAP wave system. Again, I want you guys to go into those other videos. They are on my channel. Just simply subscribe, like this video, go over to my other videos on the homepage of this channel and start going through those videos. They're also in the free Discord. All right, there's a link for that in the description of this video. All right, there's tons of great information there. It's all free, video after video. There is a free trial to my premium where you can stream with me live each day and you can have access to the 8-module course. But again, you can access that with a free trial. So all of this material is available to you. I expect you to go through it. This video was simply to show you how to compare your charts, how to set up the futures version of whatever you're trading, hook up the live data, set up the indicators, and be able to go. All right. There's a whole nother video on using the volume profile, and there's a whole other video on using the initial balance. All right. These same setups, 1 through 4, that I just showed you in this video are also you're able to take on the volume profile and the initial balance. Same 4 core setups. And there's another 4 setups in the advanced playbook, which is in the course, which you can access with a free trial, again, in the description of this video. All right, my Forex traders, my CFD traders from around the world, hopefully you'll join us in the Discord. You'll be able to trade your products with us as we trade futures. If you don't have access to futures, you can join us and trade your comparable pair with your broker, and we can trade together. So with that, guys, have a great day. Good luck out there. Manage your risk and stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video.